The first days of summer were very unsuccessful for the armed forces of Ukraine on the battlefield. Since June 1st, the situation of the Ukrainian army has deteriorated significantly. Over the past 72 hours, Russian troops have taken control of not only 98% of the territory of the strategically important settlement of Kalinovka, to the northeast of Chasiv Yar, but also significantly advanced to the village of Karlovka, in Avdiivka direction of the front. As of June 5, 2024, Russian troops control more than half of the southern shore of the Karlovsky Reservoir. Moreover, offensive units of Russian troops, in some areas, even broke into the eastern part of Karlovka, where fierce fighting is currently taking place. In addition, in the Avdiivka direction of the front, Russian troops also managed to break through the defense of the armed forces of Ukraine in such settlements as Sokol and Novoalexandrovka. It is reliably known that the offensive units of the Russian troops are already in the eastern and southern parts of these villages, and have even managed to gain a foothold in new positions. Against this backdrop, the mood of Ukrainian telegram channels and bloggers was also spoiled by news from the Vuhledar direction of the front. As it turned out, on the night of June 4th, the village of PARASKOVIVKA came under the full control of the Russian army. According to war correspondents, the Russian flag is already flown over the center of this strategically important settlement. And if you think that was the end of the bad news for Ukrainian bloggers and telegram channels, then you are deeply mistaken. The fact is that after the capture of PARASKOVIVKA, Russian troops decided not to give a break to the retreating units of the armed forces of Ukraine. According to war correspondent Yevgeny Podobny, after the liberation of this village, offensive units of Russian troops moved towards Konstantinovka. According to the latest data, the Russian army managed to advance 2 kilometers deep into enemy territory and almost came close to Konstantinovka. As of June 5, the retreating units of the armed forces of Ukraine were still unable to gain a foothold in defensive positions, allowing Russian troops to approach the eastern outskirts of this village. Thus, it can be stated that the battle for this strategically important settlement has already begun. At the same time, it is worth noting that the loss of Konstantinovka will be a real disaster for the armed forces of Ukraine, since control over this village will allow the Russians to cut the main highway, leading to Vuhledar. Thus, if the Ukrainian army loses Konstantinovka along with this highway, then the grouping of the armed forces of Ukraine located in the city of Vuhledar will find itself in a real semicircle. Meanwhile, the rapidly developing situation in the northern part of the Kharkiv region makes it clear that this particular direction of the front will become the site of a decisive battle that will determine the outcome of the entire war. And it seems that the NATO leadership also understands this fact. It is reported that since mid-May, not only the most combat-ready units of the armed forces of Ukraine have been deployed to the Kharkiv direction of the front, but also numerous detachments of so-called foreign mercenaries, among whom there are also active duty soldiers and officers of the armies of NATO countries. In addition, the NATO leadership, almost non-stop, supplies the armed forces of Ukraine not only with Western types of weapons, but also with its experienced commanders, who should help the Ukrainian army not to allow Russian troops to take control of the entire Kharkiv region. The fact that the Russian High Military Command sent Chechen Spetsnaz Akhmet to the Kharkiv direction, as well as units of the 72nd Motorized Rifle Division of the 44th Army Corps, indicates that Moscow is preparing for a decisive strike in this particular direction of the front. And it is this fact that forces the NATO leadership to take desperate measures. According to war correspondents, the number of so-called foreign mercenaries has increased threefold in the Kharkiv direction of the front. At the same time, they confirm that more than half of these mercenaries are active-duty NATO officers and soldiers. Fresh footage where it is clearly visible how Russian soldiers capture a French mercenary in the Kharkiv direction of the front, also added oil to the fire. Later, it turned out that this mercenary was an active duty officer of the French army from the so-called French Foreign Legion. According to Russian soldiers, this officer of the French army was captured near the village of LIPTSY in the Kharkiv direction of the front. Russian soldiers claim that they began to storm an enemy stronghold in this sector of the front and that during the assault they clearly heard Ukrainian and French speech. As it turned out, there were not only Ukrainian soldiers in this stronghold, but also French mercenaries. It is reported that during the assault, Russian soldiers managed to destroy about 30 Ukrainian and French militants. However, one Frenchman still managed to survive. It is reported that this Frenchman, having seen the death of his comrades, tried to hide in the trenches. At the same time, he kept shouting in French that he was ready to surrender. He also asked the Russians to stop shooting in his direction. Given the fact that the Russians have plenty of evidence of war crimes by French mercenaries against Russian prisoners of war, the fate of this French officer will be unenviable. Most likely, he will either be shot or imprisoned for life.